Oh, you know what? I don't think anybody's going to show up for a couple minutes until my broadcast message goes out. I'm... Forbidden strawberry smoothie. What the fuck is this? What is a forbidden strawberry smoothie? So what's up, Tom? I'm about to do a chat here. Hang out with whoever shows up for chat in the next couple minutes, and then I'm going to do a haul video over all the stuff that's hanging out behind me. Which means, because I got the webcam on top of my bar right now, since you're here, Mr. Tom, we're going to have a little bit of this. If anybody's watching the VOD for this, this was a Christmas present from Darklighter in chat right now. How's Hong Kong treating you, Mr. Tom? We'll hang out here for a little bit while we see if anybody else shows up. It's probably in the morning time for you, huh? Are you done work? Are you working today? Is it Saturday or is it still Friday for you? Oh, nice. So you got a day off today? You're going to a forest, huh? Uh-oh. You're going to be a tourist. Sorry, the screen was kind of far away. What do you have on the agenda to see? Alright, well, Mr. Tom is in Hong Kong. He's hanging out with us today. I'm going to start going over the haul. So let's get this chair out of the way. I'm going to have myself a cocktail. And yes, scotch on ice is technically a cocktail. Whatever. Look, that's not the point here. So, let's start on this side of the room. The case we're going with is, the resolution on the camera's not perfect. It's kind of a far away angle, but it's one of the only ways I can get That's actually pretty cool. I've heard really awesome stuff about that electronics market. It would take me like 2 days to go around the whole thing. It's fucking massive. I actually have seen more than one video about it, and it's like a wet dream for like a tech nerd like me. Okay, so for the case, you're going with the Thermaltake Core P90. This case is tempered glass. It's an open chassis. It technically does not support the motherboard we're going with for this build. The motherboard we're going with is an EATX, and because of the unique design of this case, where it has a 90-degree angle in it, the board kind of sticks out over where the bend is in between, which is only going to be used to highlight the hardline tubing we're going to be using. Because there is a LED strip on the side with a light diffuser, so it's going to diffuse a lot of light and allow it to really highlight the all of the hardline tubing that's going to be going around it. Speaking of the hardline tubing, we went with, because Thermaltake has a pretty nice collection of hardware that works together with itself, I am going with the Thermaltake tubing, and I'm using their res, not their pump. Even though this is a pump-res combo, I bricked the pump because apparently the manual speed adjustment thing is made out of cheese, and I couldn't return just the pump or the pump-res combo because I had already modded the base plate of it to allow me to sleeve the cables. I had to take a Dremel tool and cut into it, so I had to get myself a new pump. Went with the Primo Chileang. It's a PWM pump. It's a D5. The tubing we're going with is the V-Tubler. It's 16 millimeters outer diameter, 13 millimeters inner diameter. The fittings that we're going to be using for it are going to be these Pacific Pro fittings. They're nice because it's my first time doing hardline tubing, so they seem to be. They're supposed to be much better for working with the bends that are going to be going into it. So it seems like it would be easier and would allow more leeway and easier for a noob like me. Small collection of fittings, drain ports, and stop plugs like that in here that aren't plugged into it. I bought their Thermaltake bending kit, which seemed like a good buy by about like 20 or 30 bucks, just because it already came with a silicone insert to do the bends for the tubing. But I will tell you right now, if that is the reason you're going to be buying it, because to get the mandrels, don't. The silicone insert they give you is a pile of hot garbage, like pure trash. It has so much resistance that it actually will cause your bends to not work. I found that out the hard way when I was trying to test bends earlier this week. Fortunately, I had purchased a backup because some of the runs for this hardline tubing are going to be so long that their insert wasn't going to work anyway. So I had this guy, which is a much less rigid silicone insert. So that's what we'll be using for all the bends later on in the build. We're going with some of these boxes are empty, so if you see me picking them up like they weigh nothing, the reason is I've done some prep work on some of the stuff, as it's a pretty big build I'm going to be doing, and some of the stuff just isn't entertaining to watch. So we went with a cross-flow radiator for the sole purpose that because the way the loop is going to be laid out, this allows for an easier drain option, as there won't be any fluid trapped inside the radiator as we move forward and I have to do maintenance. And specifically, like 72 hours after I assemble this thing and fill it, I'm going to have to drain it again so that I can get the loop prep run out and add the actual, and flush it, and then add the actual fluid that we'll be using, which I'll get to in a little bit. Let's see, I got the mandrels, I got that. We're going with a 1,000-watt power supply. Now, I know that seems like a lot, especially considering I'm only running one video card currently. Well, will be running only one video card. But even though I did buy a $900 video card, which is the Aorus GeForce RTX, this is the Water Force. This is the water block version, not the one that you'll see in the PC part list. The primary reason is that the water block version that I bought is not actually in the PC parts picker list. So I just had to add something in there that was the same card, just same price point, just a different actual product. But I will be expanding the system later to do 2 video cards. I'm going to either wait until the RTX 2080 Ti's come out, especially now that they're no longer going to be binning the touring cores, which means that I'll be able to get a top-tier core from a secondary manufacturer, specifically Gigabyte for another Aorus card. And I plan on either getting a pair of those when they come down in price, or when they stop binning, or when the RTX 2080s come down in price, depending on when the next generation comes out or the price drop happens, whichever happens first, or is more effective, depends on whether or not I'll stick with 2 2080s, or if I'll move over to 2 2080 Ti's. Either way, I don't expect to be running this exact setup for more than 6 months. And rather than getting an entirely new power supply, which typically they don't have a huge resale value, I decided to just get the 1,000-watt power supply now, especially since I plan on modding it. Not a heavy mod, I plan on putting a wrap on it. But I wanted the overhead for the future expansion for the secondary video card later. Speaking of the mod for the power supply, I bought this carbon fiber automotive wrap, which is something, it has an adhesive on it, and also the wrap and the adhesive reacts with the heat gun that I purchased. So I'll be able to get a really nice contour on the wrap and get rid of this kind of labeling and cover it up with something that's going to be a little bit sleeker, sharper, and I think is going to fit the build quite a bit better. Up next on the haul video, we've got our memory. I have 4x16 Trident Z RGB memory. It's 3200 megahertz. It's nothing crazy. I mean, it's crazy in that I'm buying 64 gigs of it, but it's a 64 gig kit. But it's not the most ridiculous memory out there. I did get a set of cable mod cables, which I went with their nylon ones, which don't have quite the same. They're a lot more rigid, but they'll hold their bends a lot better. But more important than that, it's like a crimson almost instead of that bright red. Bring this up to the camera a little bit better. It's a crimson, which is going to be the highlight and accent color for this whole build. It's going to be the color of the fluid in the loop once it's actually up and running too. For a lot of the SATA data cables, we're going to be using the ones that came with the motherboard. They're actually very, very nice. They're braided with like a paracord material. The connectors are good. So we're going to be going with that. The motherboard is actually the actual best motherboard Z390 board on the market. It is if you haven't seen my video of the unboxing I did of this motherboard, I highly suggest you go check it out on YouTube. Just look me up on YouTube. It's Richard Clementi, I forget which. I don't even know what my own YouTube is. But the cool thing about this board is that between the actual chipset layout and the monoblock that comes with it, it is a full cover monoblock. It's going to easily be able to handle any kind of overclock I can throw at it. I think running this thing at a stable 5.5 gig locked on all cores is not unreasonable. The reason being is that if you go all the way down to the chipset die, there's no heat sinks anywhere on the board. The entire thing is going to be water cooled by a giant nickel-plated copper monoblock. It's air cooling. This board is not an option. It is honestly kind of engineered like as a consumer level extreme overclocking board. Its VRM is beefy, and by beefy I mean crazy. The VRM is also water-cooled in the same monoblock. It's one giant heat plate that connects the entire thing. Like, an exposed die on your chipset is just, that's fucking bonkers. Like, that doesn't goddamn happen. We went with, and it was kind of a pain in the ass to get 4 of them. I actually ended up having to run around to different distributors and buy them, like for different websites. But we went with Fractal Design's new fans that they came out with. They're 2,000 RPM. They run very low decibel level. And they're static pressure, even though they're not listed as static pressure when you look it up. They're 2,000 RPM max fans, but they're PWM, so they're not going to always be kicked up to, like, you know, hurricane volume. They are RGB, but one of the nice things about them is that they don't use a proprietary connector. I actually purchased and had to return a set of Corsair fans when I found out that despite the fact that I'm spending almost $30 a fan, I have to buy another $70 piece of hardware to actually get it to talk to any kind of software on the motherboard. Otherwise, they're functionally useless, which is bullshit. I'm sorry, but like Corsair, a lot of your other hardware is like top-notch and great. You have got to fucking do something about your fans. Like, that's a shitbag move. Like, to sit there and design these fans and then have a proprietary connector so that you can't do anything with it, like, oh, screw that noise. Hey, Mr. Project Draven, how you doing, my man? Thanks for stopping by. I'm just doing a haul video for the build tomorrow. As I have been using laptops for a while, I had to buy a bunch of peripherals that would normally be on any kind of desktop, and some of that kicked the cost of this build up. First of which that we're going to come to in this build is actually going to be the Bose companion speakers. I ended up wanting something that going to have really solid mids. It's going to be a nice set of studio monitors, and had room for future expansion later if I wanted to go ahead and do if I wanted to go ahead and get like a sub and maybe add some other components to the audio stream. I just wanted something that gave me options. And we're kind of halfway through, so I'm going to go ahead and I know, I'm excited for it too, Mr. Draven. I'm actually going to have a hard time falling asleep tonight. So I wanted expandable studio monitors because I wanted good mids. So what I actually did is I went and got a hold of my friend Vin, who is hands down the biggest audiophile I know. Like, it's almost comical how much this guy knows about audio equipment, music theory, and just sound in general. This guy, you went to school for it. He's crazy knowledgeable about it. So I got a hold of him, and he told me what speakers he's been using, which are currently out of production, but these are the next generation of those. So they seemed like a really good buy at about $100, so we went with those. I have my 2 storage solutions here, which is only it's only a beginning. I plan on adding more storage to the rig, honestly, almost immediately. My next round of purchase is going to be more solid state storage, probably a secondary either NVMe M.2, which I might use, or I was considering an Optane drive and getting a couple of mechanicals, like maybe 7200 RPM, like 2 terabyte drives or something like that. And putting, as I have a ton of M.2 slots in this chassis, in this motherboard. It actually has 3 M.2 slots, and if I populate all 3, I only lose 3 of my 6 SATA lines, which I can use for more solid state storage. So that's the option. Or I could just populate one of them, use all 5 SATA lanes, get some mechanicals, throw those in there. I've got options for storage, which I'm going to explore probably in the next maybe month or so. Either way, my beginning storage solution is a 970 Evo Plus. I went with the Plus instead of the Pro. The only difference between this and the Pro, which everyone is blowing their loads over, is capacity. This is 250 gigs for starting off my storage solution. This is all I'm going to really need. That's 250 gigs instead of half a tera, instead of 500, which is fine. Honestly, for getting the system up and running, that's all I need. It's a boot drive and maybe a couple of core programs. We're just going to leave it mostly empty, but you guys get the idea. 500 gig normal 860 Evo. It's a VNAND, so it's really nice. It's rateable. The next up on the docket is on this other table over here, which... Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and refresh our cocktail here. Once again, this is the double cask, Macallan 12 double cask. This is a stellar scotch for the money. We are going to be dropping a i9 9900K into the system. It is a unlocked CPU, 8 cores, 16 threads, so it's 16 logical processors, and there's 16 stage, actual physical 16 state with power delivery on the VRM in this motherboard, which is one of the reasons it's so powerful. I actually don't think the first generation of Comet Lake CPUs that are coming out from Intel are going to be able to keep up with what this chip and this board can do combined. It's going to be a while before they come out with a board that's going to be able to put the new Comet Lake CPUs that are coming out from Intel on par with what this system can do. Because, I'm not going to lie, one of the real issues that they're going to have is power delivery for these new systems, and I don't think that it's going to be 2 or 3 years before the Comet Lake architecture and the 490 boards are going to, and the Z470 and 490 boards are going to catch up to where the Z390 boards are right now. Right now, motherboard architecture is waiting for CPU architecture to come up, and in changing the actual socket layout and the fact that the chipsets aren't compatible, it's going to take a while for those two technologies to meet up again and be friends. Currently, right now, I think honestly Intel's better move would have been to just try and design a better 8-core that can really push the limits of what the motherboards can do instead of going into an entirely new CPU architecture. What else do we have here? We have, setting my cocktail down as we move some stuff around. Oh yeah, we went with MX4 for the thermal compound. I did not remove the block from the RTX 2080. I actually intentionally left that on there. I know that I could have put better thermal compound on there, maybe gotten some liquid metal for it. It's supposed to really aid with GPU heat transfer specifically. But I figured I'd let it sit on there. I'm going to see how well it does. If it comes, find out later, because I have to assemble this loop and then 3 days later take it apart so that I can add, so that I can go ahead and add the actual coolant to it later after the loop prep is done running. We're going to see how the thermals looked, and then we're going to decide whether or not we want to keep that thermal compound on there. And if I change it out for anything, it will be liquid metal. I'll probably do that on stream. One of the nice things about this rig is that I actually do have a pretty beefy laptop that I'm streaming from right now. So I will be able to stream doing maintenance and stuff like that on this computer. It's going to kind of be an ongoing project that I'm really excited to move forward with. Up next is another one of the peripherals that I had to purchase because I don't have a current monitor. Like I just said, I've been using laptops for quite a while. And that's I bought a pretty decent mechanical keyboard. I went and bought a K68. It's a full-size keyboard, and it'll work great with my fat, beefy man hands. Like, my hands are like sausages, like my fingers are so fat. This is going to be my first time using a physical keyboard, and that's not on a laptop in a very long time. And I'm actually curious how long it's going to take me to adapt back to it. The funny thing about this is that I purchased it from Amazon. Was not unhappy with the purchase, but about 3 days after I purchased it, less than a week, it went on sale for like $40 less than I paid for it. Still well worth it within the return window for anything on Amazon. I was kind of salty about it, so I contacted Amazon and I was like, hey, can you guys just credit me the difference, or do I have, like, because there's $40 is not, like, nothing, right? So I was like, okay, let's see if they'll just credit me the $40. If not, I'm just going to return it. So I get on the horn with Amazon. I tell them, I'm like, hey, can you just credit me the difference in price because this is within the return window. $2 or $3, I wouldn't even bother with this bullshit. But at $40, I mean, like, that's a tank of gas. So I get a hold of them and they're like, no, I'm sorry, they can't do that for me. It's against policy or whatever. I don't care. It just seems stupid to me that they would rather pay for shipping for 2 items, because it's for Prime, so it's free shipping. I'm not paying for it. They would rather pay for shipping on 2 items than just issue the credit. Because what I ended up having to do was refund the other one and then buy an entirely new one. And this one showed up before the other one even left the house. So that's the weird story about that keyboard. So what else do we have here? We have a Lazy Susan, which I purchased, which I'm actually think is going to be really useful for trying to do the build. I'll be able to put the chassis on here, and I'll be able to turn it without having to move while doing the stream. I think it's going to actually make the stream a lot more watchable. I did do a decent amount of research watching other people build PCs on Twitch and live. And I took some notes on what I really wanted to do. It's one of the reasons I'm streaming from a webcam instead of just having the camera on the laptop. If you see me looking away, it's because I'm actually looking at the screen instead of the webcam that's all the way up there. I went and bought a couple bottles, squirt bottles, to fill the loop with. These guys aren't really that special. I didn't own a heat gun. I decided it would be a useful tool to have. I bought one of them. I have this crazy kind of a fluid. It's a kind of like a showpiece fluid, because this computer is going to be pretty fancy looking, so I'm got myself a showpiece fluid if I'm building a showpiece build. I know it's not the best thing for your actual system, and it can cause like some kind of cloggage, and it's not as good to run, but Primo Chill makes really good cleaner that's actually specifically designed to take all of the buildup that comes with these fluids out. So I'll be running that after I run this, but I really, since I'm building this crazy computer, I wanted something sexy to look at. I bought a couple liters of this, which 2 of them should be enough to fill the loop, no problem. Because only about 2/3 of this is going to fill just the rad. It's not a very big reservoir. It's only 150 milliliters. So 2 of these should fill the loop, no problem, and I'll have some left over as well. Speaking of prep, each one comes with a bottle of Primo Prep, which is the stuff that I need to fill the loop before I need to run this in there for 72 hours. You can still play with it, and still whatever. It's just I think it kind of gets everything ready, deposits a lot of anti-corrosives directly onto the metal, so that you can kind of just run the system, which is fine. What else do we have here? We also have just a cabling solution. Rather than run some of the shitty cables that they send with all your stuff, I bought some good cables, some nice paracord braided cables. This is the USB upstream cable I have. If anybody's unfamiliar with this connector, it used to be used almost exclusively for printers. But I bought a decent one, and it sounds like a weird connector weird cable to need. But the reason we need this cable is for the special features that are on this beast mode monitor that I purchased. This is the Aorus, and I know I seem like an Aorus fanboy. I actually was on the fence about buying this monitor specifically because I did not want to be an Aorus fanboy, but it's just such a good monitor that I had a hard time saying no to it. It's sexy. It has back projection RGB, which when it's left close to a wall, from everything I've read online, is enough to create ambient light to the point where it will reduce eye strain, which is good. It actually has anti-eye strain flicker reduction built into the panel itself. Speaking of the panel on this monitor, it's the same one that's on the Acer Predator. It's the 144 Hz, 1440p, 27-inch panel. But what makes this one great, and the reason you need the USB up, is despite the fact that this is Gigabyte's very first monitor, which typically anytime anybody makes a move into a new space, like technology-wise, people start producing new hardware, it's fucking garbage. Like, it's trash in a goddamn trash can. Or, like, honestly, Gigabyte killed it with this monitor. Everything I look at and everything I see says that this is actually one of the best monitors on the market right now. In addition to that, it's not crazy expensive. It's about $600. It puts it on par, maybe slightly more expensive than other monitors in its same size and resolution and refresh rate, because it is a 1 millisecond monitor. But one of the reasons you need the primary reason you need the USB up instead of the upstream cable instead of just the HD display port is this monitor. They took a page out of laptop manufacturers' books, which was, I don't know why this isn't the standard in monitor PC monitors. So laptops have been doing this for 15 years. All of the options and the ways you navigate and use all the functions of the panel that's in your monitor are in software or in a display, in addition to being like, you know, function key derivatives and things like that bring you to a different layer on your keyboard. It all has software to power it in addition to the actual key presses. So instead of having, this monitor does that as well. So instead of having to sit there and navigate the entire menu and all the things you want to do from some stupid little button that's underneath or behind your screen, or sometimes it's back here, it's usually like on the center, around here. Instead of having to do that, you can navigate it with your keyboard and mouse, which is brilliant. And that's honestly, like, that convenience alone was worth, despite some of the other features like intuitive gamma correction and intuitive motion blur reduction, which is all software driven. There were other features besides that, but that convenience to me was worth the difference in price between this and some of the other monitors, which were very similarly priced, but just a little bit below it, that had similar performance specs. I was willing to pay a little bit more for that convenience, especially after being spoiled and using it with laptops for almost a decade now, probably more than a decade. We also bought ourselves some fancy-pantsy Ivanki HDMI and DisplayPort cables. We'll be using those to connect to the monitor. And last but not least on our list of useful things is these adhesive cable ties. I was looking for an internal inside of the chassis cable management solution, because this case does not have any actual cable management solutions integrated into it entirely, despite the fact that it's sexy as shit. I wanted an actual solution for the build itself. And I stumbled upon these guys on Amazon. This right here, I'm going to bring it up, is absolutely delightful. So, it has an adhesive backplate, which anyone who's used any kind of like adhesives like this with double-sided tapes will tell you, they're really easy to remove. They don't peel paint. And just a simple alcohol and a heat gun will take them out. So if you're using something like this Core P90, which the entire thing has been basically powder coated. I believe it's a powder coat they use. You don't need to worry about peeling it off with this, and if you want to change your cables or move anything around, you can. But the nice thing is, it's literally just a more different zip tie that like slides in, pulls taut, and then you have a cable management solution anywhere you need in your case. They seemed like a very, very good solution, and I'm really hoping they work. But on the other side of that, if they don't, the entire inside of the chassis is just going to be a big mess of wires if they don't work. And I'm going to have to try and find a solution afterwards anyway. I plan on this being an ongoing project that I'm going to continue to work on for quite some time. it's a new hobby for me, and I'm not going to really lose any sleep over the cable management solution not working, as I kind of have a backup anyway. There's going to be a pretty large Amazon order I'm going to have to make once I figure out where everything's going to go and I have measurements, like physical hard measurements for all of the cable lengths and stuff like that. I'll be ordering some desk cable management products later, because I don't know what's going to fit on the back of the desk, how long a lot of the runners are going to need to be. We're going to see what we need after that. But until I've actually assembled everything and I have it in its future home, I'm not going to have any of those measurements. And with the tempered glass desk I have, a lot of under-desk cable management solutions are not going to work, which is unfortunate because some of those are really nice, especially some of the ones from IKEA. They are actually really, really good. I'm going to have to go for narrow solutions that I can mount on not underneath, but behind the desk. I want everything to be nice and crisp when it's done. I want this whole battle station to look clean. This battle station, I think, is going to be stellar. I expect this to be one of the nicer battle stations, and I'm excited to post it and send some pictures around. Does anyone, I don't know how many people we got in chat right now, but does anybody have any questions about any of the hardware we're using, or any of the decisions we've made, or I've made, or anything like that? Anybody want to chat while we have a drink or two? The motherboard is probably my favorite. When I saw that board, I fell in love with it. Like, honestly, this is literally the most powerful board on the market. It's actually such a powerful motherboard that I think it's going to be 2 generations of motherboards into the next generation of CPUs before anything becomes comparable to it. Because no one's going to have the architecture and the power delivery set up for the new Comet Lake CPUs that are going to be coming out sometime next year, maybe. That's going to be even comparable to what this can do to the current generation of CPUs. When the next generation of CPUs comes out, there's going to be a lot of performance that's just going to be left on the table that no one's going to be able to pick up. And it's really unfortunate. I really think that Intel dropped the ball with their moving forward outside of this 2200 pin setup. I also had not realized that the music had stopped earlier. You could have yelled at me, Tom, or kissed me. Please kiss me. Well, I think we got some quiet set up here. I think this is going to be it for the stream today. I'm not sure exactly what time I'm going to be streaming tomorrow. It will definitely be I'm going to try and do it close to noon my time, which I believe, unfortunately, Tom, for you, that's going to put you at like midnight on Sunday. Is when I'll start. So right around the time that you wake up on Monday. No, when you wake up, I should be about halfway done. Maybe? I don't know how long it's going to take me to do all the hardline tubing and how much I'm going to fuck up. I also have been worried, speaking of fuck ups, I am really worried that I did not buy enough tubing, because I think I'm going to fuck this up like a lot. Like, I'm going to have to go back and go like, I'm going to have to be careful as shit and be very precise. But yeah, this is the haul, boys. Marvel at its glory. Even I'm like blown away by how many boxes I've got sitting here. Like, I've got some shit under the desk still, like secondary packaging, components. Like, the case isn't even in that box right now. It's over here on the side. Some of these boxes are empty. Like, I already put the M.2 in. Like, I put the SSD is already mounted on the chassis and a drive sled. I did some of the prep work for it ahead of time just because some of it's just not compelling to watch. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be tuning in to watch me do the hardline tubing. Which I can't blame them. That's going to be pretty epic. That and that money shot of filming the loop is going to be pretty fucking sexy. I'm going to try and... I have a mobile webcam, so it's like I'll be able to move it around and get a really nice shot of that loop filling up. Then when it's all done, we're going to do some B-roll of the... Not only the machine itself, but I want to do some B-roll of the loop. Or the whole battle station, because I think it's going to be... I foresee this battle station being impressive to look at. Like, worthy of upvotes, / I would... If anybody is familiar with one of the dark corners of the internet called 4chan, in the WG, which is their wallpapers thread, there is typically a battle station thread going. And these motherfuckers are harsh, to say the least. If your battle station is not impressive, you will get roasted. This battle station, when it's done, I would not be afraid to post this to that panel. I think it's going to be on that level. Either way, friends, thank you for stopping by, hanging out with me while I did a haul breakdown. I'm going to rip this from... you missed it, Ted. I've been online for a bit now. It will tell me 45 minutes and 13 seconds. Yeah, sorry, Ted. You walked the doggos. It's already happened. The VOD stays up for like 72 hours, so you can watch it if you'd like. But I'm gonna be killing the stream now, and I will see you guys around 12 Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, May 11th, 2019. If this is on, I'm going to be posting this, ripping this from Twitch and posting it to YouTube. So, anybody who would like to join in, sees this, is more than welcome to join me. I'm going to be welcome for any kind of company or anything like that. It's going to be mostly just some chill music like this that's kind of ignorable, and me putting together a $5,000 system. So, thanks for stopping by, and thank you to everybody who will be showing up tomorrow. You guys have a nice night, and enjoy your weekend.